Hi, today I am interviewing the very first EPT master practitioner. And what that means is this is the first person who ever went through all the requirements to attain this honor of being a master EPT practitioner. And there's quite a few things you have to do to go through that. So because it does take some time and effort, I have known Steve Olsen for wow, almost 15 years. And I'm not really sure how long. It just seems like he's been around a long time. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Dr. Annette. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, Steve, when did you first learn about EPT?
That was 2002.
And how did you become interested in emotional polarity technique?
Well, I was working on resolving some issues in my life. I was going through a divorce and some family stuff, and I started initially looking into different kinds of psychology back in 1997. And as I got involved in that, I met a young lady about 5 years later. It was in 2002, who was a friend of yours, a massage therapist who you know, who happened to be at the same seminar with me for holographic repatterning. And I was so frustrated because of the navigation and the muscle testing and the pages in the books. And so during the break, we were sitting together and we were talking, and she noted my frustration, and she just said, I think you need to meet Dr. Annette. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what I need to do. I need to start all over, just start from scratch, something completely new and different than what I've been working on. And we just left it at that. So I'm thinking it was probably 3 or 4 months later, and I was at another seminar for the same thing. And lo and behold, she's there again. And I'm dealing with the same frustrations, navigating through it, muscle testing, not getting the right answer, going to a wrong page. And I'm ready to just, blow up. And so she saw the frustration and she said very calmly, I really think you need to meet Dr. Annette. I guess at that point I was just ripe for it. So I said, all right, I surrender, and the next thing I knew, I was in Noblesville and we were talking and going through, that initial EPT conference. And there was just something about the delicate simplicity of it that made me know I was right where I belonged at that point.
Well, besides emotional polarity technique, are there other modalities that you've studied and learned, and what are they?
Well, the healing modalities that I've used in the past are, a lot of the common ones, chiropractic, talk therapies, because we were dealing with emotional circumstances, counseling, meditation, massage, some orthopedic stuff, neurology. And then I was also into nutrition, diet, vitamins, supplementation, and even some pharmaceuticals when I had an injury that was going on. But ultimately, I became trained during this course of time. I became trained in Reiki 1 and 2, reflexology, some massage, anatomy, physiology, holographic repatterning, which is now called resonance repatterning. I learned some neuro-linguistic programming, applied kinesiology, Psych-K, remote viewing, and in terms of healing modalities, another wide array. I was involved in tuning forks and color immersion and music therapy, chakras, chakra balancing, Chinese meridians, visualization, reconstruction and reenactment, Gestalt, cognitive and behavioral psychologies, and others like transactional analysis. So EPT essentially, I found, allows like a multi-theoretical psychotherapeutic framework. And, we just refer to that now easily as the hub of the wheel. It gives us an opportunity to start with this basic, beautiful, simplistic method and reach out in any direction to any of these other capabilities that an individual practitioner might have. I know, for example, some of the people are very involved in yoga, so they can reach out to yoga. I wouldn't be able to, but they would reach out to yoga for a particular, client to try to, if that worked for them. So in essence, you're bringing together a construct. Each individual practitioner in this EPT venue can determine a construct that person can employ for any given set of circumstances for their clients. So it makes it so variable and so useful with anything that you've learned in the past. So, and because EPT is based on compassion and resolution of issues, in a sense, EPT is similar to transactional analysis in that the point is to cure, to really resolve the issue with the patient, as opposed to other talk therapies that are really focused on understanding the patient. And that's why they're constantly talking and many, many visits, where here you're looking for the cure. So because of the simplistic nature of EPT, I feel it's truly do no harm, in keeping with the Hippocratic Oath that's honored here with EPT. And so this EPT integrated approach can really be customized by practitioners to establish their own integrated psychotherapeutic construct.
Tell me about the ways you've used EPT to support your own emotional health.
Well, I think probably the biggest thing is it allowed me to move from that place of being a victim to being in a place of responsibility. Because like in this day and age, a lot of people see themselves as victims. It's almost celebrated to be a victim. And people see themselves as victims either of the past or of their circumstances or of their emotions or because of other people. And the government's more than happy to make us dependent on them. That's like keeps us coming back. So the thing that EPT does is it takes you from that place of victimhood and it makes you responsible for your own actions. And the way that I look at that, particularly if I'm trying to explain it to somebody, is I have a deep-seated belief that we play a part in writing the script of our lives. And because we play that part before we even get here, and then it's kind of erased from our mind when we finally get here. But because we write this script, it means that we are in fact responsible for every decision that we make in our life. So with that understanding, we can't be victims because we're responsible for the decisions. And I just use a simple example was my divorce. It would have been easy and was easy in the beginning for me to blame her for everything that was going on because it was an unseemly situation. But in the end, I had to acknowledge that I was the one who chose her. And so I was actually where I was supposed to be. And the fact that that we got divorced presented for me a learning opportunity that I wrote into my script. So instead of saying, poor me, I had to say, okay, why did I write this? And what am I supposed to learn from it? How am I supposed to grow from this? So that's what EPT does. It takes people who are ready to hear the truth, acknowledge the truth, with the intent of being cured or have their issues resolved, puts them in a place of responsibility where they accept that responsibility for the things that are happening in their lives and takes them out of that victimhood and gives them control again. So the things that happen that are bad in their lives are actually a result of their own prescription because they wrote that script. And if they can just hang on to that as a temporary suspension of disbelief kind of thing, then they're open to the healing that they can get. And it happens with EPT.
I have, as you know, I have a healing beach retreat called Lifeworks that I've been doing for many years. And I've really gotten to know you, Steve, at Lifeworks, where a group of us, a small group, come together at the beach in a single property, and we do EPT and all manner of holistic healing to release a lot of these emotional issues and to help people move forward in their lives. So, you happen to be one of those people who I have gotten to know probably mostly at the beach at these healing retreats. Do you have any idea how many Lifeworks you have been to, Steve?
I'd say, what are we up to now? We're about 29 or 30. I think I've been to every one since 4 or 5, and I just in the last year and a half. Yeah, in the last year and a half. Oops. Okay.
Go ahead.
In the last year and a half, I missed 3 because of just scheduling thing. I assumed you knew I was coming. You didn't know I was coming because I didn't sign up. I always wait till the last minute, and then the date changed, but I had already made a flight for something else. So in the last 3 years, I've missed 2 last year and the first one this year, but I'll be there in November. And the thing I love about Lifeworks, something I know you like to say, is, the purpose of all this is to heal broken hearts. And at Lifeworks, we expand on the work of other people. For example, Bert Hellinger does these constellations. So our advanced work has to do with family and business constellations. And we turbocharge his work by using EPT rather than just letting energy kind of float around. We just turbocharge it. We get it done in an hour and a half, where he might go on at his seminars for 6 or 7 hours with a particular constellation. So it's what you're doing with EPT, and what we join you in is expanding the possibilities of things that are out there. And we find that the beauty of EPT is we can just find a way, find an application, and then give it a shot. One of the things recently that you did in one of the progressive concepts classes, which I really thought was amazing, and that was personifying a disease. Having somebody actually represent a disease that was in somebody's body, and asking this person who's representing that disease, how do you feel? Oh, I love it here, I want to stay. And then as you go through the whole process, at the end, the disease is crying and going, I don't belong here anymore, I've got to go. And that's pretty amazing application of this kind of constellation work and personification.
How do you describe, that you just gave an example of something that's just really out there as far as energy work. And, for a lot of people that would be very complex to even get their head around. So EPT itself, when somebody says, what's EPT? Like, why should I do EPT? Or, how do you describe it?
Well, I try more to answer a question when they ask it specifically, but I think generally I tell them it's just a process that allows you to identify the true source, or sometimes we refer to it as the root of the issue, or in more psychology terms, it would be the original conditioning event. EPT is a way to identify that root cause of whatever it is that's bothering you now, that issue, like an archer's arrow, instead of, in many of the talk therapies, having to discuss all the relationships in your life, your father and your mother, and how they got along, and how were your siblings, and how did you get along, and how did they get along with that. And in the end, you're still using a shotgun approach with birdshot, hoping that you get close to what the answer may be. In EPT, we have the ability to use applied kinesiology, and it allows us to tap into the subconscious, which is really the database of our body. It knows everything. And the more I read, the more I realize that science is starting to catch up with this now. So we're actually ahead of the curve there a little bit. And through applied kinesiology, the individual's body will identify what the source of that problem is, and then or that issue, and then we have a way to fix it using magnets. We do a quick fix where we just balance that emotion in the organ where it happens to be resident, and then the forgiveness is the huge part of it. That's the release. That's the part that allows this negatively held energy, this blockage or the speed bump that you can't get over, to be released. It gives you the energy to get over it and lightens your load and lets you go on now to a different phase.
I know that you have traveled all over the world and that you are always traveling. And I know that you, by doing a lot of Lifeworks, you've seen a lot of amazing healing take place. What is your most fantastic experience of healing, either in your own life or that you've seen in somebody else with EPT?
Well, only one?
No, you can do more than one.
No, you know, I guess what I'm doing is I'm keeping this close. I have sat with many people for about an hour, and I almost have like a little.
Go ahead. It's okay.
I almost have like a mini ministry because of my sons, because they're always they ask me all the time, Dad, will you do EPT on me for this or that, which, is totally encouraging. And they've gotten to the point where they go, do you think you could work on him a little bit? Would that be okay? I go, just check with his parents. If it's okay with them, it's okay with me. So I have this little mini ministry going here with the kids. But I would say that the most amazing thing, I would have to say, is the disappearance of my father's lung cancer. He was given 6 months to live, and by 9 months, he was completely clear of cancer. So that was a pretty amazing thing. And of course, it was multifaceted. The approach was multifaceted. But the main issue, the thing that I believe really broke it, was the EPT part of it. Finding the emotional issue that set his body up initially for the cancer. And that turned out to be, it was very strange, because lung cancer is usually fear of death. So I'm thinking, well, Dad, this comes back to 1999. Did you go to the hospital? Did you almost have a heart attack? Were you in an ambulance? Was there some reason you would think you were going to die, even just for a second? And he couldn't think of anything. And my mom came in. I'm like, do you have any idea what this could be? And she's like, no, I don't know. And then finally my dad said, the only thing I can remember is we bought a new car in 2000. And I said, well, why? And he said, well, because your mother hit the back of that highway truck with it. And that was it. It was his fear of death for her, because when the trooper called him and said, I'm sorry, your wife had an accident, she hit the back of a highway truck, he thought she was dead. So that was just by identifying that, and then alleviating, doing the forgiveness, doing the body changes with the magnets, the organs, and then applying some other facets of natural methods. We stayed completely away from radiation or chemo. In 9 months, it was gone. And the doctors, he was working with regular MDs and a pulmonologist, and they were just amazed. So that, I would say, that's the biggest thing, because that was my first flight into that area. And there's one other thing that in retrospect showed up, and again, it's a family thing. It was my son Connor. It went back to 8th grade, and the only reason this even came up is because when I was doing my master's, I was using my case studies, and I went back through some of my notes, and I used this one as a case study. It was only a 20-minute session, but he was having trouble with doing all of his assignments. He was just getting confused. And we just did a 20-minute session. I didn't even think anything of it. But that was in 8th grade. And I think it was 4 years later that I was putting this all together. And I looked at that and I realized that from that point on, he was a B and C student at that time. And from that point on, he was highest honors all the way through high school. And right now he's in engineering university at Binghamton University, and he's carrying a 3.87 cum. So he just turned into a brainiac over a 20-minute session of EPT to remove this block about his assignment, the difficulties he was having with that. That amazed me.
That is amazing. You know, a lot of people listening don't realize that you're a single parent, that you've raised your kids, your boys, you had primary custody, and EPT kind of became this tool that helped you to become a super dad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, certainly to help them, you know, it gave me a tool to really help them. And it's, you know, this was just Father's Day recently, and to get the cards and the conversations that we had was really, it was unusual for me because they generally didn't talk that much, but now they're at the age where they realize how much I have been doing for them. And the amount of appreciation that I get from them is incomparable. And the love between us, because there were some strained relations while some of this was going on. People were pulling people apart, but it's all together. It's right where it belongs. There's a lot of love here and a lot of trust, because some of the things we do EPT on are very, very personal and very, I'd even say private, like intimate. And they trust me enough to go right there. And whatever the outcome is, they're open for the truth. They're ready for it.
That is what makes my heart so full and so happy. When I've known you so long, and I know that the journey of a single parent is not easy. And no matter who you are, it's a heavy burden to carry. And, you know, when I've seen single parents use EPT, and you're one of them, you know, it just fills my heart to know that love can be reconciled, that you could still have phenomenal relationships even when there's been a breaking. And you're a beautiful example of that. And I love it. I love hearing that.
I 3 or 4 years ago, although it was something I was aiming for and fighting for, I don't think that I really believed that it could be as good as it is. So it took a maturing and growing together. And of course, they have access to their mom whenever they want it. I never interfered with that. I felt it was best for them to have the best relationship they could with her, because she's half of who they are. So that makes them whole. And that's worked out really well. So,
yeah, there's that when family members go through something so difficult as a divorce, whether it's an easy divorce or a hard divorce, I feel like EPT kind of gives this doorway or puts a language on love that people lose in these kind of traumas, where does it all come together and how do we fit together? And I definitely have seen you go through that. And I know your boys. I love your boys. I love you as a dad and everything that you have done. And, you know, you're just a model for people who are in hard breakups to never give up on something better that can exist right in the carnage of what happened.
Yeah.
And so I love it. Love it.
And that really does go back to that victim thing again, you know, by not allowing myself to be a victim of those circumstances. I just stopped and said, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? And in the meantime, I had to recognize that it's not just me worrying about me. I got two other bodies here that I've got to worry about, and taking responsibility for that, moving it forward, has gotten us to where we are now, rather than, you know, licking wounds and feeling sorry for ourselves and complaining and even bad talking. You know, it wasn't necessary. Moving forward with the responsibility of what happened. I chose her, you know, so.
Yes, absolutely. So what, you know, I want to move into, what are the top 3 reasons that you would tell somebody else to do EPT?
Well, I'm constantly surprised by what EPT can accomplish. And the vast majority of people who've shared experiences with me, they've been resolved in one sitting. And, you know, to resolve a major issue in one meeting, to me, that just amazes me. So I've even had some clients that have been in counseling for 20 or 25 years, people that other people referred to me, can you help this person? And in one sitting, they've gone from like a deep depression, from this hunched over walking position to standing straight up, you know, like their heart opens up. And I didn't get to see it. I got reports of it because I just had the one meeting. And then I hear from other people who I know, oh yeah, I saw that person and she's walking straight and she's talking with a different voice. And so, you know, that stuff amazes me. One of the things about EPT, because of that, because we can do it very often in one sitting for one issue, we don't have to deal so much and be concerned with patient management, where we're trying to get somebody to come in time after time after time, and then people start to feel like they're doing the revolving door thing. For me, I just as soon see that person one time for one issue, and then hear from other people that worked out so well that they want to try it now. So I enjoy that kind of thing. But let's see, 3 reasons people should have EPT done. I would say, if you're stuck, it'll unstuck you, because that's what EP does. It gets you over the wall from depression into acceptance, and it makes you, it brings you to a better place in life. It changes the way you see the world, because it's so simple. You know, people tend to pile up their problems until that mass becomes so big that it's not manageable. And EPT shows you that you can take a little bite out of it, one issue, and you can take it bite by bite and reduce that pile, so it is manageable. So it shows them that life can be simple, the resolutions can be simple. So again, it's that beautiful simplicity. And it moves people from the blame place to a place of forgiveness. So it frees you up to be positive, gets you out of that negative energy. It allows space in you to go forward, so that you're not just treading water, staying in place.
Well, you know, I have, you learned this through the trainings that I have, and I have a lot of people who will take my trainings, take a few trainings, do a few Lifeworks, and to become a master, you have to essentially do a lot more trainings and a lot more work in the trainings. And you did that. So I'm just wondering, you know, I never know the difference between someone who wants to keep pursuing this and those who just take a few classes and say, I think that's all I need. So my question is, why did you decide to go ahead and pursue the masters?
Well, I guess with my first introduction to it, initially, I was looking for some kind of psychological answer to my marriage situation. So that's what got me started on the path, and I thank her for getting me started there. And but then, as I got more involved with EPT, I realized that EPT was producing more benefit than all the years I had spent in law enforcement. I was a police officer and a sergeant and a detective sergeant, a lieutenant. And so I went through that whole thing, and I enjoyed doing it. I did it because, like most people who do that, it wasn't for the money back when you're only making $10,000 a year. It was to help people. I mean, that's at that time, that's why guys did it. That's why I did it. And then I found, as I got introduced to EPT, that I could do more sitting with one person for an hour in EPT to change their life than I could do in years of law enforcement. Even though the effect of what I was doing was a good thing, healing the world one person at a time was way more compatible with where I wanted to be. So in the end, that law enforcement experience just brought me to a place where I could really appreciate EPT. So, it made me want to go further. And then I loved what I saw in the situations that I had to go through and helping other people. And then the other reason was I just like a challenge. And you know that it's a 5-year program ultimately, and it's we worked it out. It's about 2,000 hours of training and case studies and video case studies and written case studies. So there's a lot of hours involved. That's actual hours, not like university hours. So it does take a lot of time and a lot of effort. And it was a challenge. I wanted to grow. I mean, I love EPT, so I wanted to grow in it, and I wanted to become a better person. I really feel that I have. And through the network of people that I've met in EPT, it's made it even that much better because of these Lifeworks at the beach, where we really intimately get to know each other. We can lean on each other, and there's a network there. One example is, your sister, Sherry Hamilton, who's also a master. I touched base with her at a time. She's very good with essential oils. I know nothing about essential oils. So I asked her for her expertise, and that again was with my dad because he had neuropathy from his knees down. For years he was walking on stumps. And she gave me 2 oils and told me to massage them in 2-3 times a day. Within 2 weeks he had feeling in his legs again. So that idea of having a network of people who, and we're not paying each other to consult, we're just saying, yeah, I'd try this, and trusting each other that we're going in the right direction. So that kind of networking is priceless.
Steve, how has EPT changed your life for good?
Well, I'm going to actually expand that question, if you don't mind, because I thought about this a lot, and I want it to apply to everybody first. So in a deeply contemplative way, EPT raises the discourse in a world where most people either knowingly or unwittingly worship at the altar of the scientific method. Based on deconstruction or reductionism, which is strictly like physical Newtonian focus of sorts on all things in life. So simply put, that's the belief that if you can find the smallest pieces and understand them, whether they're pieces of a body, like a liver, or pieces of a watch, like a spring, or in physics, going down to electrons and quarks and atoms. If you can find the smallest parts and understand how they're put together, then when something's broken, you can take them out and replace it with a part and put it back in. That's completely Newtonian. But then, along comes this guy named this white cotton candy haired guy in the beginning of the 19th century named Einstein, and turns that all upside down. And we find out that it's really all about energy. And here we are doing energy psychologies like it's something out of a New Age manual, when in fact there's 100 years of proof, starting with, well, every experiment they've done in quantum physics has proved to be true. So we don't understand that world down there at that low level, but it's all about energy. The things that we think are hard, like, you know, your computer is made of something hard. When you look closer and closer, if you reduced a hydrogen atom so that the proton in the middle was the size of a basketball, the electron would be 12 miles away. It's all space. Everything is just space, and it's condensed energy. The matter is just condensed energy. So it's really all about energy. And because of guys like Einstein and quantum physics, there are ideas like entanglement, strange actions of particles at a distance. That allows us to do work on a telephone with somebody who's hundreds of miles away. So this energy work is a real deal, and it's based on science. And unfortunately, as people rely more and more on science, they get away from what's really important, which is the spirit and consciousness and the soul and reality. And those are things that we're working directly with. We're working with powers like that. And because science is, a lot of people are worshiping at the altar of science, thinking it's the answer to everything, they're missing out on that whole unseeable, unknowable structure that really isn't even in the brain. Consciousness is not a bunch of, you know, neurons and synapses firing. Consciousness is somewhere else. And, you know, from the experiences we've had, we know that somewhere outside of the body. People are not necessarily going to understand this at a first look, but a little bit of reading, you know, goes a long way. And a lot of things that we're doing may not be provable to somebody following a scientific method, because those things of faith are not provable. Those things that are outside of the deconstruction or reductionism purview, they can't be proved. Scientific method does not serve us there. So how has it changed me for good? I found EPT as a home, and there's been an amazing demonstration of forgiveness in my life, and it's opened me to so many other avenues that I never would have pursued as an engineer that I was originally educated to be, ceramic engineer. And then as a cop, you know, flat foot, I mean, feet on the ground, that's what we know. And then all of a sudden, here I am in this ethereal, nebulous area of soul and spirit and consciousness and reality, and learning more about it all the time. Things, reincarnation, just finished reading Proof of Heaven, which was Eben Alexander's book. He was the neurosurgeon who was in a coma for 9 days and went on this incredible trip that was not possible based on what all those people said. All the neuroscientists said it was not possible. His brain was dead. His neocortex was completely inert. And that's what produces that experience. And he had the experience nonetheless. So I think his purpose was he had to come back to tell us that everything that we believed, all those theories about where that after near-death experience comes from, they're all wrong, because he's the proof. It was impossible, and yet he had it. So there's much more to the world than we know. We keep expanding the possibilities. You know, you keep coming up with stuff that I can't believe, and that's why I have to come to progressive concepts, because I'm always learning more and more, and I try to find my way to throw a little bit in so that we're all contributing. But yeah, no, it's been a major change for me. I think I've always had a certain character that was a beneficent in nature, but now I feel so much more strongly about it. And the spirit part, the part that you can't prove, is so much more now of who I am that I can't imagine going back to where I was.
Wow. I love that. I love hearing you say that. I have definitely watched your journey toward spirit, and oh, it makes me so happy. I feel very connected to you that way in ways that I never felt when I first met you. And I probably didn't have that possibility to even have, understand that as deeply as I do now either. And I know that I would say it's because of my own journey using EPT, discovering EPT, kind of following that road, that my own spiritual awareness has expanded. And I could say that 20 years ago, I'm not even sure I could have told you what spiritual awareness was. So I definitely see that change in you, Steve. And I love that you were so open about that, saying that that would be what changed you for good. The last question I have is, if there was somebody, I mean, we have so many ways we can talk about EPT, in scientific ways and esoteric ways, it has such a depth to it. If there was somebody in front of you who was saying, I don't know, I don't know if I should do this, what would you tell that person to kind of push them over the edge to say, if you're thinking about doing EPT, here's why you should do it? What would you say?
I'd say nothing's an accident. There are no accidents. It's like, you're here for a reason. This is part of your script. You wrote it for yourself. You're here at this very moment, this very specific reason, because you wrote yourself here. And the only question left is why. And I can answer it. You put yourself here to learn something. And what is it? Obviously, it's EPT. And you're exposed to it so that you can allow yourself to make the choice. You can learn it and grow, or you can turn your back on the destiny that you yourself wrote into your script. And then my question would be, which choice do you seriously think you wrote this encounter into your script for? To walk away from it or to tap into it? So, that's pretty easy.
That is beautiful. And I want to say, Steve, that I am so glad that I wrote you into my script, because you have been an amazing inspiration and support. And I know that I wouldn't be in the position I'm in without having known you. And I'm so grateful for you. I love you to death. These are kisses for you. And thank you so much for being my first master practitioner. And thank you so much for doing this interview with me.
And thank you for being just where I needed you to be in my life when I needed you.
You are so welcome. I love you, Steve. And I'll see you at the beach, and I'll see you at Progressive.
Yes, you will. Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.